always at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. And the big question, what is Jimmy's value? What is he worth, Alex?
There was the reports that came out early that the Commanders said he was worth potentially a first. They could justify their first round pick, which is pick 11 for him. And everyone went crazy and was like, people were like, there's no way that's possible. And I literally tweeted out, I've been saying this. It's 100% possible. Have you seen the quarterback class? Have you seen it? Have you seen it? Cutback crew? Have you looked at the quarterback class? It's not good. It's actually bad.
There's a world where McCorkle would have been the number one overall pick.
This year.
Maybe even Kellen Mond.
That's really bad, Ed. But you know what? You're not wrong, because all of those things are entirely a possibility. The quarterback class this year is not good. It is atrocious. And so because of that, my thinking was Jimmy's value, after the season he just put together, getting back to the NFC Championship game, he's been to a Super Bowl and NFC Championship game in 2 of the last 3 years. His value, in theory, should be significantly high. But then there's talks and things coming out that teams aren't even offering a second, that they're only getting thirds and fourths right now for Jimmy Garoppolo. And while that may be the case, it's probably the case right now because of the situation that's going on with Russell Wilson, with Aaron Rodgers, the Deshaun Watson chaos and drama that is that over there, as well as Tom Brady. And is he retired? Is he not? Is he coming back to play for San Francisco? Is he going to go to the Miami Dolphins? What's Tom doing? Is he really not going to play football again? This is it? Because it felt like a little bit like an underwhelming sort of retirement situation for Tom Brady. I know that when he announced it via an Instagram post, I was like, Tom, that's not how you're going to retire. I know this. We're going to have a press conference and you talking to people. That's not how. This isn't really a retirement. It doesn't feel like it as of yet, but it could be the case. Who knows?
He never mentioned the word retirement, by the way.
It's true. He didn't mention.
He never said retirement.
No, he never did say retirement. So there's a lot of questions right now with the quarterback market, and because there's questions about the quarterback market, that does impact Jimmy's value at the moment and what it currently sits at and what he could be worth. And if we're talking right now, at this very moment in time, before Jimmy has been dealt, before we know anything about Aaron Rodgers, where he's going, Russell Wilson, any of that, at this point in time, in this moment, what is Jimmy's value is? What is his value right now? Because we'll get to what we think his value is going to be and what we think the Niners may end up getting for him. But I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion at this point that the Niners are probably moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo. I'd say it's like 99.9999999% positive that's happening.
Yeah, when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo, there's all kinds of misinformation that always comes out when there's a trade, especially when somebody's going to be obviously traded for.
Good old misinformation.
Yeah, when it's surprising, then you don't have time for all that. But you hear the 11th overall pick, and it sounds crazy. And then you hear Jimmy Garoppolo for a 6th round pick, and it sounds crazy. And that is because they're trying to stretch the rubber band. There's teams that want to get him for the least amount possible, and there's 49ers that want to get him for the most. So it's probably somewhere more in between the two.
Rational thinking? My God.
Yeah.
What a concept.
Do I think the 49ers are going to get the 11th overall pick? No, unless they couple it with something else, right? If they were willing to trade the Commanders, for instance, Jimmy Garoppolo and maybe a 2nd round pick, they could probably get the 11th overall pick. But it would have to take something with it. So I think that is an outside possibility. I don't think that's the most likely. I think the best way to do it is start looking at other situations that were similar. First off being Alex Smith. When the 49ers traded Alex Smith to the Kansas City Chiefs, a quarterback-needy football team, they got 2 twos. A 29-year-old Alex Smith garnered 2 twos. Now, was 29. Jimmy Garoppolo's 30, so there's 1 year difference.
True.
Alex Smith got the 49ers to 1 NFC Championship game. Probably could have got him to 2, so let's keep that, under wraps.
Gosh darn you.
Alex Smith was better at not turning over the football. There were some things that he did. So he's more athletic. Maybe those things make it so Jimmy's not quite worth 2 twos, but I think it sets a baseline. Now, when Alex Smith is traded from Kansas City, so this is, a few years later, from Kansas City to Washington, he garners a 3 and a 4. So I think that is the top end. I think, once again, you look at it, I don't think we're going to get 2 twos for Jimmy. But I wouldn't be shocked to see us get a 3rd and a 4th, maybe a 4th in 2022, a third in 2023, which basically means
with escalators too. You could do an escalator.
you could definitely do it, so it could move up. So even that 3 could easily become a 2. I think those are probably the area we should start talking about. The only other one to bring up is last year, a man who sees ghosts and Sam Darnold was traded for a 6th, and then this year a 2nd and 4th. So a 6, a 2, and a 4 is what they got for Sam Darnold.
That's a pretty big haul for the ghost man.
Also, what Schefter brought up, right? He could see Jimmy going for a 2, 4, and a 6.
Possible. I think he's worth more than a 2, 4, and 6. If you gave that for Darnold, I think Jimmy is.
You wouldn't be interested in taking a 2, 4,
I
and
would
6?
100% take it, but I think you could do better than that.
Okay.
I think you could get. I think the 2 2s that you talked about, that scenario is the thing that 49ers fans need to keep in their mind. You traded away Alex Smith, you got 2 2s, right? Matthew Stafford just got traded for 2 1s, a quarterback, and a third, I believe, is what it was. This thing is what we were talking about pre-show. That's a lot. It's a lot for one guy, and they got a Super Bowl out of it. Good for the Rams. Jimmy Garoppolo could, I think, very easily get you in that 2 2 to 2, maybe a 2nd and a 3rd, or 2nd and 4th category. And the Niners, if you wanted to get a player, could probably take even less than that. I think you could probably take maybe a 3rd or a 4th round pick and a player. And depending on the player, I think you and I, and a lot of 49ers fans would be very, very happy with that. I'd be happy with a 3rd and the right player, or a 4th and the right player, in all honesty. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. The Niners could go after, could want a better, more impactful player in return and take even less, maybe take a 5th or a 6th and get a more impactful player. But I think the reality of the situation is Jimmy's value right now is going to be a little bit lower, not because Jimmy has done anything, but because the market. There is a plethora of possible available quarterbacks around the league. The Russell Wilsons of the world, the Tom Brady's of the world, the Aaron Rodgers of the world,
Deshaun
Watson as well. All of those things inflate the market in terms of what you're willing to pay for those guys. And so because of that, you're not going to be willing to sacrifice as much for Jimmy Garoppolo, who people put in that tier 2 category with Carson Wentz. However, Carson Wentz, I feel, is way down the totem pole in comparison to Jimmy Garoppolo, because Carson Wentz hasn't gotten his team to any of those types of things. Yes, the Eagles won a Super Bowl with Carson Wentz on the roster, but he wasn't the quarterback.
But he played at an MVP level.
He did play at an MVP level. But that was the only year that it's happened.
Right.
Ever since that year, he has not been that quarterback.
His body's betraying him, similar to Jimmy.
100%. I think the only difference has been Jimmy's held up enough. Jimmy's body's held up enough that he's able to get to a Super Bowl and get to an NFC Championship game consistently.
That's another reason, Alex, that I think that his market could be weakened is the fact that he's been hurt so much.
Sure.
So having an escalator like you talked about, where he plays 15 games or 14 games and then his numbers go up, I think it's something that I could foresee doing that. Could you see a scenario where the 49ers got 2 2s but sent back a 2023 third-round pick?
Yeah, because it could end up being a compensatory pick.
Right, it's a swap. It's the next year, right? You swap your third-round pick for a second-round pick, so you're moving that, but then you're getting a 2 out of it.
True. You could do that. I could see that. That is a possibility. It is 100% a possibility for the 49ers. But I think Jimmy's value right now is just... I think there is a world in which Aaron Rodgers stays, Russell Wilson stays, obviously Tom's situation stays as it currently is, and teams are wary of what that may mean and what that may be. And you have a situation where Deshaun Watson stuff isn't cleared up and no one wants to touch it. It's too radioactive.
There's a report that there are 4 or 5 teams now willing to ignore those allegations and go ahead and make a trade for Deshaun Watson.
Well, then if that's the case, they go ahead and do that. But once he's off the market and that trade's been dealt, now there's still 4 or 5 teams who are still desperate at the quarterback position.
Maybe more.
And maybe even more than that. And you have, if Aaron Rodgers is off the table and Russell Wilson's off the table, there's only a handful of options left. And now Jimmy Garoppolo becomes the most attractive at that point in time. And if those teams feel they're a quarterback away from being able to make a Super Bowl or make a run, they'll look at a guy like Jimmy before they'll look at a guy like Carson and be like, hey, this guy has proven it recently. Maybe we give up a little bit more. And maybe it's not the one that we all would like it to be, and maybe it's not the one the Niners want, but maybe it's a 2nd and a 4th with escalators, where the 2 could become a 1 based on performance.
A 1?
Maybe.
Oof.
If you make a Super Bowl, you're going to tell me that you couldn't work out a trade in which it's a 2 and a 4 with escalators, that the 3 could become a 4, the 4 could become a 3 based on his ability to be available and play, and the 2 couldn't become a 1 if they don't make a Super Bowl or a championship game.
I think it's likely that the 4 could become a 3.
Okay.
I think that is in all, but I don't think there's any world where the 49ers are turning that 2 into a 1 on performance.
Once they get a 2?
I don't think so.
Once they get a 2, it's just a 2.
I think they would be very happy to trade for a 2 and a 4 with an escalator for a 3. I think we would feel like we got a lot for Jimmy Garoppolo. The 49ers would feel really good about that.
And you didn't give up as much for Trey Lance.
Yeah, I think it all goes into that. And then if you get that, if that 2 is this year, or even if it's the 4 that's this year, you put the 2 on the next year in 2023. You're gonna have 10 selections going into the draft. That's plenty of room to make a lot of moves, and work yourself around. Having 2 2s or even an extra third where you have 3 3s, you can move back up into the second round. We saw the 49ers take that aggressive approach last year and move up. So I think that gives you some wiggle room to be able to replace. But the main thing is they need to get that salary off their books. They need to get the $25 million off the books. So Jimmy Garoppolo's value in the long run is actually whatever somebody's willing to pay for him. Now it doesn't. There are locations where we have coaches that are getting long in the tooth in their current situation that need to win football games. Jimmy Garoppolo is a proven winner. Once you start marking off some of these looks, as far as like Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, we know Tom Brady would only play probably for the 49ers, so that's not going to happen if he doesn't go to San Francisco. He won't go anywhere else. So I think that there's not very much wiggle room for some of these other teams. Come out now, Aaron Rodgers wouldn't want to play in Washington. So they're all of a sudden it's getting smaller and smaller, the list of possibilities. So at what point does somebody say, you know what? We just got to make sure we get one of these guys. We can't afford to take one of these guys in the draft and suffer. Ron Rivera, he's a gambling guy.
Well, not only is he a gambling guy, he knows that his time's short in the league.
Yeah.
His time's almost up in Washington. They're gonna have to put something together here quickly because they need to be able to win football games. Take pressure off of everything else that is a disaster over there with the Washington Commanders. They got to win football games and be relevant.
They definitely have to be relevant because that name, they have to do something because they're struggling with that fan base. That fan base is not liking the Commanders name. Now they did sell a lot of jerseys and stuff. Surprisingly,
it's a terrible name.
But I think Jimmy will look really nice in Washington Commander stuff. But they'd have to pay the right price. And John Lynch, we've seen, has a good relationship with Ron Rivera, and they have a good relationship with Martin Mayhew.
Accurate.
But there's plenty of teams. There's like 13 teams possibly that could be interested in Jimmy Garoppolo.
That is accurate. And this is what I mean. I think right now, anyone who goes one way or the other on the Jimmy value stuff, it's a 1 or they can't get anything for Jimmy. Why would we think he's a bum? Of course nobody wants to pay for Jimmy. It's way too early. It's way too early to be making any of these decisions. Every team right now that is going into this offseason that needs a quarterback is going into it with 2 thoughts in their mind. Either get a guy right now or rebuild. It's one of those 2. You're either rebuilding the franchise or you're going to try and make a move and compete right now. And there's only a handful of quarterbacks who are available that can allow you to do that. And so if you're the Niners, if you're sitting there right now thinking as a fan or as the team, sitting there thinking there's 6 names out there, there's more than 6 teams that need quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
And I would say there's more than 6 that are a quarterback away from being playoff eligible, playoff contending teams.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of teams are going to get a good idea during the combine, what the ask value is for the 49ers and then what the other availability of the other quarterbacks are.
Accurate.
And once they find out some of these guys just aren't available, they're going to need to call the 49ers. And then at that point, the 49ers have all the leverage and the 49ers can, kind of, you guys need to make a move.
You laughed at me when I said 1.
I don't think it's going to be a 1, man.
You laughed when I said I needed a 1, but, doesn't seem like you got any other options right now. Seems like you're a little desperate.
You think the 49ers could actually wiggle a 1 without sending something back?
No, they'll probably have to send something back. It won't be a player either. It'll most likely be a pick. However, Ant, I have brought up a scenario in which the Niners, barring crazy things happening and D Ford clearing a bunch of health stuff, maybe they send D Ford.
I don't think anyone in their right mind trades for D Ford.
I don't think anyone would either.
I mean,
especially not with a 1 attached in that trade offer.
No one is trading for D Ford. D Ford might as well be radioactive. I think there's the 2 options. 1, he comes back, and 2, he gets cut post June 1.
That's 100% what's going to happen.
Those are the only 2 options, and I'm thinking him coming back is lower on the totem pole. And
that's crazy too how quickly that changed, because last year we talked about how if D Ford's healthy, he's obviously for sure coming back, and this year it's like I don't know if he can even be healthy.
Well, because he hasn't proven he can be healthy for 2 years now.
Yeah, and it's the same issue.
Yeah, he got hurt in 2019, 2020 he ends up being gone, 2021 he ends up being gone. Everything they've tried hasn't been able to work. So yeah, it's just not there. But when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo, I think his value is not the Alex Smith, 2-2s value. But I also don't think it's Sam Darnold. I think it might be a little bit better than that. So he's not young, but he's a proven winner. He's taken 2 teams where he's taken them. So I think that he's somebody that is going to be valued. What that value is ultimately going to be, I think, is somewhere between the 2 and 4 range, and depending on, I think it's 2 picks, and I think they're somewhere between 2 and 4. I think they might be in a couple of years, but I would love to get a one of those picks this year and then one of those next year. But
Agreed with you
either
there.
one of those situations are better.
I agree. I agree with you 100% there. So here's my next question for you, Ben.
Yeah.
If a player is attached,
Yep.
Obviously player will shift. This segment actually would be great for J Hill. The swinging scale here in terms of what it could be. Yeah, the sliding scale. J Hill would thrive right now on this show, on this episode.
Yeah, he would say they could get anywhere from a 1 to a 7.
Yeah, with a player of A caliber to D caliber.
Yeah.
Depending on the player, obviously that would, if you get a player back from a team. Number one, do you think the Niners would have to give something up in order to get a player and a pick back more than just Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe a pick themselves or maybe another player? Would you want to do that? And then B, if the Niners do make a trade, what do you think, if they got a player back, what do you think the draft pick would look like if you're getting a player in return?
I think it depends on the player. If you're talking about a frontline starter player, you're probably sending Jimmy over there maybe with a late round pick to get a starting level player.
Okay.
I think that if you are, unless they're sending a pick back too, like you could play games, right? You can move around. The 49ers have extra 7th round picks, so you could do something with that.
True.
But I think it all depends. If it's a depth guy, somebody you think could compete, maybe a younger guy that hasn't, played up to his potential
That could develop,
then I think you could see him being in place of a pick. So you could get, a 3rd round pick and this player, something of that nature.
Okay.
I think it all depends on what value. Like, we've heard Montez Sweat. I know John Chapman was putting out Montez Sweat. We had kind of mentioned Montez Sweat as somebody the Washington Commanders might be interested in, or in sending, because in the last year of his contract.
They also said everything is on the table, including Chase Young.
Yeah, they did. But Chase Young is on the table for Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson.
Accurate.
Not for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Accurate.
Unless you're going to send them a 2. If you're going to send them Jimmy Garoppolo in a 2, or Jimmy Garoppolo a 2 and a 6, maybe you could get Chase Young. I don't know. I still think that's far-fetched. But I think that somebody like Montez Sweat would be a potential, move. I don't know if you could get him Jimmy straight up for Montez Sweat. If they're needy enough, you probably could, because Montez Sweat would probably carry a 2nd round, level grade.
I would agree.
As far as, last year of his contract and all that. So that is a potential move that could still be made.
It is, and it would make sense as well. I mean, this is a speedy guy who's still fairly young in his development and what he's done in the league.
Really young.
And a high upside, high potentiality. And we give the 49ers options at the D end room. Do you want to keep Samson and become around? Is Sweat a guy that you could roll with going forward? It would just push this room, and it adds a lot of depth also.
It does. It adds a lot of depth. And you have to make some decisions on him. Do you want to extend him? Do you want to have his 5th-year option exercise? There's lots of stuff there. And because he plays defensive end, he's going to make a lot of money. His 5th year is going to be expensive. So this is not a cheap option. You have Samson Ebukam. Do you want to bring back Arden Key? If you bring back Montez Sweat, you're probably not bringing back Arden Key. You can't afford him.
Nope.
So I think that you have to make choices. You have to make concessions. I think the best scenario for the 49ers is to end up with, some sort of impact player, whether that's through the draft or, a trade. But you need to turn Jimmy into something, while the biggest thing being losing that salary. $25 million. You're right now $4 million over the cap. You got to get under that before March 16th, so they're going to have to make a move. I'm sure there's going to be some restructurings and stuff like that along the way, but they'll figure it out. But, yeah, the Jimmy thing, the value is really what someone's willing to pay. The question is, can the 49ers strong-arm somebody into giving them more than what they should?
That's going to be the key, Ant. And you don't want to be too quick about it, because you don't want to just jump at the very first thing that someone offers you, but you also don't have time to dilly-dally around, right? The longer you wait, the less that leverage becomes your leverage, and more teams going, yeah, you may be desperate. You may have to just move off of this guy and take whatever I give you, especially if no one's giving you what you want. So the Niners have to be cautious with the game that they're playing and how they're playing it, but they're definitely prepared for this. They're definitely not I don't think they're not in a position of strength. I've actually heard people talking about this. The Niners aren't in a position of strength with Jimmy Garoppolo. They're in a position of weakness because he's a liability. I don't believe that to be the case at all. I think you having Jimmy Garoppolo and what he's shown the last 4 years that he's been in San Francisco, dating back all the way to 2017, the 5 games that he played with the Niners at that time, I think he has shown that he is more than just a starting quarterback. He's a quality starting quarterback in this league. Is he elite? No. But can he win football games and get to the big show with him and the big dance? Absolutely. And have teams in this league won Super Bowls with talents equal to, hitherto unheard of or undreamt of, whatever it is, but equal to Jimmy Garoppolo? 100% they have.
Yeah. You have a good running game and a good defense. You can win games with Jimmy Garoppolo. He's a proven winner. Doesn't matter, what kind of team, he has or that he's on. But I think if you're looking to extend your potential as a coach, you're looking to extend your career, you don't want to be gone. You want to bring in Jimmy Garoppolo because he wins football games. And if you get to the playoffs and you haven't been there in a while, all of a sudden your fan base is like, oh, here we go. So it buys you some time. It allows you to go ahead and draft a quarterback, potentially maybe not this year.
Not this year. Not this year.
The year after.
But next year, yes.
But Jimmy can bridge that gap, and Jimmy can win you some football games along the way. He buys you time. So I think that Jimmy Garoppolo has a lot of possible landing spots, and the picks just have to work out. I think in the end, the 49ers will take the best available deal.
Agreed.
And they'll ship Jimmy on no matter what that deal ultimately is. I think they move him on, and they take that draft capital and see what they can do with it. But yeah, Jimmy, via con Dios, buddy.
It is pretty much via con Dios at this point. And, barring something crazy happening, Trey taking the biggest regression that I've ever seen in my entire life, which is that.
Or what would happen if somebody came and offered like 4 first-round picks for Trey Lance? Would the 49ers be willing to do? I mean, it's crazy town bonkersville, but this draft, right, is not good. I know I took it on purpose. But yeah, 1,000%, I would be interested in thinking about it. Trey. Well, I'd be thinking about it. But 4 first-round picks. By Trey. Because, right, everyone's so desperate because this quarterback
You're gonna tell me if someone gave you 4 first-round picks, you couldn't turn around and find a way to give one of those picks to Tampa for Tom Brady?
Oh, I know you could.
So this
but the question is, what are you going to do at quarterback after that runs out?
We'll figure it out. The only way, here's the thing. If it's Tom Brady, someone gives me 4 first-round picks for Trey Lance, right? It's before I say yes, I pick up the phone and call Tom. Tom, likelihood that you want to play for another 3 years in San Francisco? Oh, like 70%. Likelihood that you want to play for the next 2 years in San Francisco? 100%. Thank you. Hang up the phone. Done. It's a done deal within the next minute. If he wants to stick around in San Francisco for 2 years and you can get 4 first-round picks for Trey Lance, why wouldn't you?
Because if
you've bought enough time.
Well, what if you think Trey Lance, though, could be the next Tom Brady, the next Aaron Rodgers, the next great quarterback? Then is there any value that is enough? Maybe. I mean, what if I told you...
You got to be sure.
What if I told you that in the next 15 years, Trey Lance was going to win 3 Super Bowls, beat 10 All-Pros?
And, well, then, we're sticking with Trey Lance. But you can't know that. Nobody can know that.
Nobody does. Yeah.
Nobody knows that.
I'm just wondering. I just threw it out there. I don't think anyone will actually offer 4
Cutback crew. You be honest here. What is more likely? Tom Brady winning a Super Bowl with the 49ers next year or Trey Lance winning a Super Bowl with the 49ers next year? What is the thing that's most certain?
Next year?
Yeah.
I think that you would have to say Tom Brady's more likely.
I think it's the most of the 2 options. That would be the one I'm most certain about.
Yeah, I've seen him do it.
Correct.
7 times?
A lot of times.
So there's no.
And if Chris Godwin doesn't get hurt and Antonio Brown doesn't lose his mind, they probably win it again this year.
But if you told me can Trey Lance win more Super Bowls over the next 15 years than Tom Brady?
Well, it's relative, right? Because Tom's not playing for another 15 years.
I know, but that's the thing. You're making that trade.
Trey most likely
You're making that trade knowing your future is on the way out, and
Correct.
You're just all in here and now.
True.
I don't know if anyone would offer 4 first-round picks. I just thought it would be interesting to talk about.
4 first-round picks. This is the thing for me. When I hear 4 first-round picks, because a lot of people may be sitting here going, Alex, you're the future guy. You love planning for the future. That's your favorite thing in the whole wide world. And you wouldn't be mistaken, Cutback, or you'd be 100% correct. Why in the world would you move off to the future and Trey Lance for 4 first-round picks? Because 4 first-round picks doesn't close the future door. It actually props it wide open. It allows you, I believe, to address the here and now as well as potentially the future. You just wouldn't be addressing the future at the quarterback position in this draft. You'd be kicking the can down the road one more year to potentially address it then, or, figure out what the heck's going on with Aaron Rodgers.
That scares the blue heck out of me, to be honest with you.
It scares the blue heck out of me. Yeah.
I feel more comfortable with Trey Lance than I do the potential of kicking the can down the road a couple years.
You're not wrong, but Super Bowls are Super Bowls. And I'm starting to come around to this,
Oh, you're coming into getting one, huh?
I'm coming into this whole one thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this or not. I got to do it on Twitter. Well, I can get into it, but someone on Twitter was shouting to that mean ocean ant about how I just want to watch the Niners win 1 Super Bowl, just 1. And I was like, bro, what are you yelling about? We've won 5. What do you? And then my brother messaged me. He was all, dude, he was talking about in his lifetime. And I was like, okay. Like, okay. The team that you root for has won 5. I get you want to watch one in your lifetime. A bit selfish. Your team's done it before.
I mean,
I would love to remember a Super Bowl in my lifetime because I don't remember the Steve Young Super Bowl. I was a toddler. I remember pooping my pants. That's about it.
After watching Men in the Arena, and you know what Tom Brady said about winning Super Bowls, that's why I said 1. You win 1, you worry about the rest later, but you got to go all into winning.
You got to get at least 1. But this is why for me, I haven't won that. I don't remember that one in my lifetime. Yes, I've experienced one, but I don't remember it, which is why I think right now in my 30s I have one right now because I will remember it for the rest of my life.
You don't want to be the Chicago Cubs and have people that are like
a century,
and
dude.
people that are like hadn't seen it their whole life.
Grandkids didn't watch one.
Yeah.
I mean, that is rough. And there's organizations right now in the league whose teams have never won one.
Yeah.
And a couple of them are still not close.
Yeah.
They got like a 10-year rebuild still coming to get just one. Like this whole concept and idea of making sure you secure one now. I've never been someone who's thought that way. I just haven't. I've always been a planner, and I'm looking at it right now going, there's got to be a balance between those two things.
Yeah.
And you have a roster right now where it's 4 first-round picks, I believe allows you the opportunity to do both. It allows you to still prep and plan for the future while ensuring that you can get one in the next year or two.
If you know you have a roster to win now, you win now.
Right.
You don't play games with, well, if I made this little move, then that'll give me a chance next year. You win right now. That is your only choice. So if coming back to Jimmy Garoppolo, the round, if you believed you were going to get an impact player for Jimmy Garoppolo, then you make the move and you trade for an impact player instead of draft picks because you'd rather go with a proven commodity than you would a guy in the draft that has potential.
I would rather give up Jimmy in a 5th or give up Jimmy in a 6th and get someone in who's going to have an immediate impact on the roster right now than draft picks and a potential impact player.
Definitely. I'm agreeing with you. And so I think that if they could bring somebody in, that'd be nice. But if someone wants to go to Crazy Town Bonkersville and give us 4 firsts for Trey Lance, I will consider. It's not going to happen because I don't think Carolina has 4 first-round picks left.
Accurate.
Or they would probably do it because they traded a 2 or 4 and a 6 for Sam Darnold.
It's accurate. They probably would.
Yeah.
Would the Washington Commanders do it?
No. Martin Mayhew's there, and I have too much faith in Martin Mayhew that he's not going to give 4 first-round picks. It had to be like Rule and those crazy people that would do it. You know what I mean?
Oh, you just put them on the spot.
And their track record proves
You're not wrong, though.
Yeah, their track record proves it. There had to be one crazy team, and I think they would have been it. So I don't think anyone. I think they really love Trey Lance too as well. The only other one that loves him that much was Atlanta. But Atlanta's got a $44 million cap hit from Matt Ryan, so they're not doing anything.
Hey Kyle, well, we'll give you 2 firsts and Matt Ryan, and we'll eat $15 million of his salary. No way, I wouldn't do it.
The problem is a lot of his skills have been eaten, and he's not ready to roll anymore.
I've been eaten by
the
Father Time.
The largest amount of money in the history of the NFL that he's owed.
A lot.
A cap hit. It's crazy.
That's why Aaron Rodgers wants $50 million.
It is why Aaron Rodgers wants $50 million, or he just is trying to push the Packers.
It's one of the two, right? It's he either really wants $50 million. He's sitting there going, how is this clown? Like he's got 1 MVP. I got back to back.
Prediction: what do the 49ers ultimately get for Jimmy Garoppolo?
If I had to predict it and say it right,
I'm not saying that it doesn't have to be 100%, but just what you would lean towards.
I'm going to lean towards a 2nd and a 4th with an escalator and the 4th round pick. That would be my most likely scenario of what they're going to get.
Yeah, I think that is something that I would deem possible. I wouldn't even be surprised if the 49ers don't end up with a 2 and a 3 with an escalator if they send back a late round pick, maybe like a 6th or 7th round pick. As a little kick to get it. But yeah, I think you're right. 2 and 4 sounds good with an escalator for it to be a 3, or even a 2 and a 5 with it being an escalator to a 4. Okay. I think both of those are potential.
No, not bad situations. I know it's not what every 49ers fan wanted. You wanted to possibly see that one. We'll see. We'll see if a team gets desperate enough to make the move. There's always a chance that a team gets desperate and feels like their back is against the wall and they have to do something. And they know other teams are coming in with 2s and 4s or a 2nd and a 3rd, and they're like, you know what? Let's just not get into a bidding war. Here's a 1 for Jimmy Garoppolo, and the Niners go, ha! Thank you, and take it and run. We'll see. We'll see how it happens. We'll see how this plays out. But let us know, Cutback Crew, what you think his value is. What do you think San Francisco is going to get from him? And do you have a player in mind? If so, leave it in the comments section down below, because we're going to go a little bit more in depth with this conversation. This is just what Jimmy's value is, what we think it is, what we think it's going to be. But where could Jimmy possibly go? I don't know. Maybe we'll have a video later this week talking about it just a little bit more in depth about possible landing spots and what the Niners could be getting back from those teams, or, Ant, maybe even what players could be coming San Francisco's way.
Yeah, I think there's interesting conversations about where Jimmy lands, and there's lots of teams that are looking for a quarterback and looking for an upgrade, and this wasn't the case last year. I mean, it really wasn't. How quickly the NFL has changed and turned, and there's even quarterbacks out there right now that are manning starting positions that aren't as good as Jimmy Garoppolo, or that the team could ultimately look to move off of. I think there's going to be a lot of potential for Jimmy, and there's a lot of landing places where he could be. So the 49ers have options and where to ship him and move him, and let's see if they can get a lot back. But yeah, the landing spots are going to also provide some scenarios, and not only what the team can give up, but also what personnel they might be willing to give up if we could end up with a player, or if it's just going to be all draft pick.
Accurate, Ant. Very accurate indeed. We will see what happens. Cutback Crew, we want to hear from you, though, so make sure you're commenting away. And while you're doing that, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss out on any special videos that may drop. Any other interesting things. And if you want additional content, the Madden Cutback League is still going strong. We just posted week 14, some week 15 stuff coming up as well. Week 16, actually, excuse me, no week 15 because footage got corrupted after the playthrough. So no week 15. I apologize, but week 16, yes. Week 17, yes. Week 18, yes. And then all of the playoff glory that is happening in the Cutback League leading up into that big AFC Championship game between two teams in the Cutback League, myself and Drew. Spoilers.
Oh, no.
Spoilers. Oh, my gosh. No spoilers. By the time this video comes out, everyone's already seen up through at least the divisional round. God, I hope so. Otherwise, spoilers, and you're welcome. Cutback Crew, though, we'll see you on the next one. And until that time, stay safe.
Remember, the right way
is always the 49ers way. Channel membership. That's the only way you're watching it.